Bobby, we had a question. I apologize to the person who asked it because it's run off the chat roll. And Bobby, I want to maximize your time while you're with us because you have to go in 15, 20 minutes or so. There was someone who had a question about an injury to the sesamoid bone of his foot. The sesamoid is one of the bones that is on the bottom of the big toe, covers the big toe joint. Could you maybe talk a little bit about running form and how it affects that joint of the foot, and if people are having trouble with sesamoiditis or needing to have time off from injury to that area, are there ways they can improve their form or alter mechanics to improve that, that painful area?
You know, in terms of sheer mechanics there, what you really want to do is try and reduce load to the point where you are not altering your gait. That's the whole thing with the sesamoid bone. So there's some learning. The chiropractor that I work with here in Boulder talks about running around your foot when people have those kind of issues. Mm-hmm. So they tend to not load bear, and then they load bear more extremely on the other parts of the foot. So, you know, slowing the pace down, increasing the stride rate, paying careful attention to the surfaces that you run on, and also returning confidence to the motion through the foot. So doing well-balanced activities where you're moving through the foot motion in a more controlled fashion, where you've got some support either with your arms or with the other leg. You know, doing roll throughs, for example, you know, starting with your heel in a walking motion, rolling through and coming up on the toe on that foot. All of those things will return the correct proprioception, because it's very, very easy to learn an acquired movement to try and isolate the uncomfortable place.
Great. So I like this idea of going back and forth and finding a paired swim question. Terry, are you with us?
I'm here, yeah.
All righty. Terry, what would you say about swimming around injuries? You mentioned this the other day. Perhaps a similar injury to the foot or the knee in running would be, you know, the shoulder, obviously, or maybe the elbow in swimming. What's your advice about swimming with injuries like that and recovery?
Great. I've had my share, and not because I swim aggressively or do any of those things. I mean, if I found since I would say since my early 50s that I'm experiencing injuries that happen just because of body parts being older and wearing out. It's a natural part of the aging process, especially if you're pursuing athletics in a fairly ambitious way. Is that a fair thing to say asking you as an MD, Suzanne?
Yeah, I think it goes back to Bobby's comparison of our bodies as cars of different levels. Are you a Honda Civic or are you a Ferrari? If you're a Honda Civic trying to perform as a Ferrari and you're getting older while you're doing it, then I think things can start to fall apart much more easily.
So if even if you're training intelligently and thoughtfully and not overly aggressively, I think it's an expectation that you're going to experience injury in middle age. Differently than people who are just trying to stay active and healthy. Because there are aspects of your training that are more effortful, let's say, and so since for the last 10 years, I'm 63 now, and for the last 10 years I've had more injuries than I had previously, even though I think my form is better and I train more judiciously, let us say, the great thing about having those injuries is that I was able to turn virtually every injury into an opportunity. It was not an inconvenience or an impediment, and in fact there are a couple of times where I know that I made really dramatic breakthroughs in my feel of the water, my ability to work with the water and not against it during periods when I was physically inhibited by an injury and had to apply more finesse and sensitivity. And I also did find that, and the rehab, the PT people that were working with me commented on this, that I was recovering much more quickly than other people of my age and with similar injuries. And I know that is attributable to the fact that I was doing this gentle movement in swimming around the edges of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
I would not go deep into the discomfort, but I would find the edge of the discomfort and find ways to work around the edges without increasing it, and seeing if I could, in measurable ways, actually swim a little better. When I say measurable, for a certain stroke count, could I go a little faster while not hurting myself?
Uh-huh.
And I used a visualization when I had a ruptured biceps tendon, and I was told not to swim whole stroke for 3 months, and I cheated and did swim some whole stroke. I had a visualization of stroking so gently that I visualized the staples holding my tendon to the bone pulling out if I were not gentle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I came back amazingly from that, and in fact, 5 months to the day after that surgery, swam an absolutely amazing 2-mile race.
Oh, fantastic. So slightly different strategies described by both of you for dealing with injury. I think it's pretty interesting, the differences between doing an activity that's on land where gravity is pulling you down and you have to support your own weight versus
Right.
being in a pool where the water supports you. And so I think that the pool can be much more therapeutic when recovering from an
Absolutely. I
injury.
mean, that's where the opportunity comes in, because water is healing.
Mm-hmm.
It's gravity free to an extent, and you have resistance all around, so you can explore movement in interesting ways.
Uh-huh.
Because you have resistance all around. I love it.
Bobby, what would you say about using water to rehab from running injuries or maintain running fitness during an injury?
I think again, Terry makes some wonderful points, and the circular motion of swimming, as well as the whole range motion of swimming, indicates that kind of modulation while you are, floating, is definitely possible. So I find, by doing activities in the water, if the athlete is reasonably stable, you can do that. Maintaining some sort of intensity, though, creates eccentric problems when you've got your legs extended below you in an aqueous environment. When you transition from, say, a forward leg swing to a backward leg swing, that puts quite a lot of stress on, especially the hamstring attachments, both at the knee and up in the glute area. So very, very beneficial. I think water is a wonderful rehabilitative environment for a runner.
Mm-hmm.
But one must also, again, be careful of those ballistic transitions that can be exacerbated by a thick medium that you're moving in. So
Sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Lots of pluses, but a few small minuses. That's why I think the Alta G has come into its own so much, just by helping athletes carry a portion of their accelerating body weight as opposed to that full body weight.
Yeah, that makes sense. Really interesting, the differences between the two sports.